after so long a time, I remember the preacher that preached the sermon, W.D. Griffin. He had taken his text on the prodigal son, and he got to the point where that the son went to this far country, spent all of his living, and would have fain have filled his belly with the husk that the swines did eat, but no man gave to him. And he remembered his father's house, and how many servants there were in his father's house, and they had bread and to spare. He said, "Here I perish with hunger." He drew the picture, the prettiest picture of me you ever saw, you know. So I said, well, they won't take me. They won't have me. I looked at them as being something that I desired very much to be like, but I didn't feel like that I was worthier because I had been on the wrong track for a long time. But then after that sermon, I said to myself, I walked around out in the field after it was over with, and I said to myself, well, I'm going to try. If they don't take me, well, that'll be all right too. And he gave the invitation, and I told him I was gone as far as I could go. And I'll tell you right now, the way those people received me, the old house just rushed forward, you know. And I didn't expect it at that time. Of course, I was raised to high heaven at the fact that they had received me. Some people said he's losing his mind, you know, out in the world. And they wasn't wrong from it, but I'd gone through a period where God had dealt with me pretty rough. I deserved it because I'd been pretty rough myself. But after that, I really was on cloud nine until that night. And it come to me and it hit me again. This thing's not complete. It's not over. It said, you have not yet been planted in the likeness of Christ's death. You're not raised in the likeness of his resurrection. You're not baptized. And then I understood more what Elder Griffin, after he preached that sermon over there, he begged to be relieved of baptized be that day, and that another elder would come up here the next week, next Sunday, and he would do the baptizing. I agreed to it, but it was a miserable week. The day that I was baptized, I don't remember much about it, but Sanford, her father's sister, and her name was Laura Fanning, and her daughter, Janie, was at the baptism. And they said I come up preaching after being baptized. And of course they said, they would begin to tell everybody that Denny Hale's got of course they knew Denny Hale has got a grandson come into the church and said he was baptized today, and said he'd come up out of the water preaching. And I began to feel an urge to speak publicly. They would ask me, some of the old brethren would ask me, did I feel I was called to preach? Because I had a tremendous memory and recollection of the scriptures. And of course, I had them to ask me time and time again. I tried to hide it and say, no, I don't feel that I am. But finally then I didn't convince them that I wouldn't. And so in, I think it was 1955, I joined the church, a little church, who the name was called Mountain Fork Primitive Baptist Church of Christ. That's what our sign reads. And 59, why, I was ordained, and to this date I've been preaching, going in and out, traveling far and wide. The field of my ministry has been about 14 to 17 states in the southeast part. And I have baptized at least one or some in most of those states. And so I've now been ministering, I guess, 55 or more years. 55, I think it is. And I'm old, I'm tired, I'm weary, but I still have that urge to speak the truth.
These days they are a river.
That Christ was born into this world, and when he was born of the Virgin. I read in the Old Testament where that a virgin would conceive and be with child, bring forth a son, call his name Jesus, and he was called Jesus. He was the Emmanuel, God with us. And that this virgin, when the fullness of time had come, why, the angel came unto her, announced the birth of that son that was to be born into the world, that was prophesied in the Old Testament time and time again. And as I considered the angel making the announcement to Mary, how that she would conceive in her womb, bring forth a son, call his name Jesus. He would save his people from their sins. Jesus took not upon him the nature of angels, but he took upon him the seed of Abraham, and was made in the likeness of a man. Being found in fashion as a man, he humbled himself, and he became obedient unto the cross, even the death of the cross. And he suffered, and that's been my faith. Not only did he suffer, but he died and was 3 days and 3 nights in the heart of the earth, and he died for our sins, and he rose again for our justification. And when the fullness of time was come, that was manifested, where Jesus was born of a woman, born under the law, to redeem them that were under the law, that we might receive the adoption of sons. Because we're sons, God sent forth the Spirit of his Son into our hearts, crying, Abba, Father. Therefore we're no more servants, but we're sons. Being sons, we are heirs of God and a joint heir with Jesus Christ.